Welcome back to the KIMI KATO show. We just went out with Mayanaka no Doa by Miki Matsubara and came back with For You by BTS. So can either of you tell us why you chose these songs? この曲を選んだ理由をちょっと教えていただいていいですか？
この曲は
どっちですか？
真夜中のド
ね。
ア。真夜中のドアは1979年に、リリースした曲で、実際僕も知らなかった。ポニーキャニオンに入るまで。
So that song actually is from 1979, and believe it or not, as legendary as it is now, I hadn't heard of it until I actually joined Pony Canyon myself.
でね、ある日、デジタルチームがデータを見てたら、急にスパイクが立ったから、これ何が起こったんだってみんながびっくりして、よく調べてみたら、そのインドネシアの、ある女性がカバーした映像が YouTube で跳ね上がってたってところから、割とこう世の中的に聞かれた。
何年だったんですっけ
19年とか19年とか20年ぐらいかな。20年、21年。
So one day my digital team comes into the room and says, you gotta see this. And they pull up some data on the song, and it has spiked dramatically on streamingですよね、その時に。
Yes.
Some streaming data had spiked big time. And they're like, what is going on with this sort of catalog song, you know? And they looked into it, and they found that there was an artist in Indonesia who had done a cover of the song on YouTube, and by virtue of doing that cover, had generated a bunch of interest in the original track, and we had a random catalog song become a big hit right before our eyes.
Amazing how that happens.
Yeah.
And that really literally started the trend of city pop, right? That we talked about. We've done a show about city pop, and you can't avoid playing or talk about Miki Matsubara. But no, sadly she's passed away. Rest in peace. But she has left an amazing timeless song. Yeah. And then BTS, what's going on with that?
BTS はポニーキャニオンと関係なさそうだけど、最初に、日本のレーベルで契約したのがポニーキャニオンで、僕も最初編成会議で彼らの曲を聴いたとき、今よりこうもっともっとこうコアなヒップホップをやってたんだけど、まあ、彼らの初期衝動がとにかくすごかった印象があります。
Yeah, on first glance, you might think that this legendary K-pop group wouldn't have anything to do with Pony Canyon, but we were actually the first to sign them. We were the first to sign them, and at that time they had kind of a robust hip hop feel to it, and so we saw that and saw something very promising in the group very, very early on. So that's kind of a testament to our A&R chops as a record label.
I think Pony Canyon signed them like early, maybe 2011, 12, something like that. Yeah, that was way before BTS. Who they are now.
We knew them before they were cool.
Well,
they were cool, but we knew it right away. So they were always cool.
Yeah, great song. Good choices. Good soundtrack.
Yeah.
They are no longer with Pony Canyon, but I obviously, that then enabled them to create an international success afterwards. So great pick for Pony Canyon. And city pop. Pony, I literally would have to say that Pony Canyon ignited or were the reason for this the current city pop movement. For those of you who don't know city pop, we've done a show on city pop previously. It's a genre of music that originated in Japan, which became very popular in the late 70s and 80s through the influence of music like funk, disco, R&B, AOR, soft rock, boogie music from the US, from artists such like Kon Fan Sheng, Ohio Players, Steely Dan, Doobie Brothers, Zap, etc. But yeah, many artists in Japan back in the day were heavily influenced by these Western artists and naturally created their own music. Then that became popular in Japan, is now influencing international artists, which is interesting how things kind of move. The culture kind of changes. Oh, spins around.
Japanese
Comes
rock.
around and goes around.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like the relationship between city pop and American pop is extremely interesting because it's clear that people were listening to all those groups that Kimi just mentioned. But then when they took it, whatever influences back to Japan, they were adding their own sort of aesthetic impressions and aesthetic directions to it. And so it became its whole new thing. But now you're finding people in the US. Do you guys know Ginger Root, for example, where they'll take Japanese genre of city pop and it's back on this soil, becoming another iteration of this aesthetic, which is again different.
He's definitely one of the reasons why city pop is as popular now as it is. Yeah.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Yeah. Yeah. So
It's interesting, Kimmy, just on a small, I'd recommend everybody go back to that series that you did on city pop and J-pop and all that.
Yeah.
I was looking the other day at the numbers, and that show has been #1 for 2 weeks in a row. So people are finding that show as well to get their primer on. If you don't know city pop, it's a great
people
show.
love this music. And if I may toot my horn very briefly,
please.
25 years ago, first get to Japan in the year 2000. And a friend of mine made me this 20 CD mix of Japanese music.
Was it CD or cassette?
It was it was CDs, just to defend my age slightly. It's still not that much of a defense.
I used to do cassette tapes.
Well, it'd be cooler if I could say it was a mixtape. Basic mixtape on CDs, and 20 of them. And it had music from the 60s all the way up until that moment in time, which was year 2000. But you're talking about, Pink Lady and Omega Tribe and Andi and of course Matsubara Miki. And I have to tell you, it was love at first sight for me. But because I like yacht rock already, which I see it as basically Japanese yacht rock essentially, but obviously with those aesthetic augmentations and explorations that Japan did with it. But it was so cool. But I would show it to people in the US or outside of Japan, and they couldn't get it. And they said, I don't know, what's this, I can't understand what they're saying, or, I don't know, it sounds weird, or, they couldn't get it. They couldn't get it. So it is incredibly gratifying to see the world wake up, thanks basically to streaming and sort of, complete access to anything ever, and be like, well, this is cool, and it's completely embraced now. And it's just the most gratifying thing I could possibly imagine.
Okay.
Why do you think it's changed?
Yeah, I'd love to hear your opinion on why people are now accepting it.
Yeah.
When 25 years ago, people didn't.
Yeah. No, that's a really good question. I mean, I have a couple of theories. One of which is that I actually credit the movie and TV streaming platforms a little bit because, I remember going back to my hometown in Eugene, Oregon, and plopping down on the couch with my parents with the Netflix. You turn on Netflix. What shall we watch? And, in the 20 years ago, 30, when I was a kid, you go to the movie store and you go, if you want to watch something international, you'd go to the back of the movie store, and it's like faded cassette box, and it's never checked out. It's dusty. And you would have to be very dedicated
or specific, right?
Like, I want to watch Wong Kar-wai movies or whatever it is, and you'd go to the very back of the, so that was what international content was as a kid. It's for people who are very, very dedicated and self-identifying as the type of person who watches that. Now you turn on Netflix, it's like, okay, should I watch Money Heist from Spain, or should I watch Squid Game from Korea, or this Viking thing from Germany? And it's all there, and it's all, one by the one next to each other. And you don't have to go deep into the Netflix catalog it's just there if it's good, right? And so I think what that has done is cultivated a sensibility in consumers that, oh, I just want whatever I like and what's good for me. And I think that the second thing is, and you see this if you have like kids right now, is that they are so omnivorous about genre and country of origin at this point where it's like, you know, they might have some weird Swedish like emo thing, and then boom, you know, Dire Straits pops on, and then like K-pop pops on, and they don't buy an album really. They're just kind of consuming stuff as a waterfall of content, you know, from wherever. And they don't need to like they don't need to make a $17 decision about whether they want this one set of 12 songs.
Yeah.
And then if I have this set of 12 songs, I can't have the other, you know, albums in this. Like when we were young, we'd have to go and buy the CD. You have to find the money to get the CD and then go get it. And that's your choice. You can't have the other ones. Now it's like, hey, you can have anything in the ocean. It's if you can find it. So like with this Matsubara Miki thing, somebody in Indonesia found it. And once they find it, if they have any influence or if they have good taste and other people see that, you know, there's a bit of, you know, the network effect will kick in at that point. So I really do basically, I could have said a much shorter answer. Just thanks to the platforms for, you know, for allowing people to find what they want, wherever they want, however they want, and they're agnostic to origin at this point, relatively speaking. That's my theory.
Oh, I think that's a great theory.
Yeah, it makes sense.
Yeah.
You know, I sit there when I watch films from all over the world, and just how you explained it, you can find anything very easily, and the soundtracks are always so great.
Yes.
Most of the time in film, they've always been curated and handpicked. And I sit there with, you know, I Shazam everything and then go to Spotify and make a playlist. So I'm sure that's the way I'm finding it. So aside from the Kimi Kato show, of course.
Well,
it brings all the hot stuff.
Obviously. Yeah.
Speaking of which, I would like to talk about, you know, Pony Canyon and the intersection, the Pony Canyon being the intersection of anime and music. Pony Canyon has always been the forefront of this fusion, producing iconic anime soundtracks and supporting talented artists. I think and their involvement in the Anime Expo. So I'd like to, you know, before we go, I'd like to take a quick break. Don't go away.
What are we going to hear on the way to the break there, Kimmy?
We are going to listen to The Rumbling by Sim.
Oh, nice. This is a fun one. Okay. We'll be right back. This is the Kimi Kato Show.